everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you, and good morning. Thank you for joining us, and thanks, Sachin, for the introduction. On behalf of CIO&Leader and Fortinet, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Fireside Chat on Technology and Financial Solutions in our 22nd CIO and Leader Annual Conference. I'm Jatinder Singh, Associate Editor, Enterprise Tech, 909 Group, and the host for today's session. Before I introduce our eminent panelists for today's session, please allow me to quickly set the context of the discussion for everyone's reference. We understand that the COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically changed the enterprise ecosystem and made every organization realize the importance of championing digital base to thrive and mitigate any unforeseen scenarios. Whether it was setting up a fully remote workplace for thousands of employees or building new apps for erratic customer expectations, the role of newest data technologies across industries and organizations have become more prominent than ever. Banking and financial sector is no exception either. Adopting an agile, secure, and scalable technology infrastructure has become paramount for the sector, where customer experience is the foremost criteria for success. While digital technologies improve efficiencies and enable the sector being personalized customer experiences, we understand that their deployment also comes with a fair share of fears. Those could be data integration, security, regulatory compliance, and cultural readiness as well. Financial services institutions are faced with near constant attacks and intrusion attempts, and cybersecurity teams at those companies need visibility to achieve the cost savings, operational efficiency, compliance reporting to maintain competitiveness. Among those, there are some other challenges as well, which our esteemed panel will discuss today. And protecting extremely sensitive data is going to be top priority for both business and compliance reasons. And at the same time, institutions must control costs and optimize operational efficiency to remain competitive in an industry with many players. Let me take this opportunity to introduce our distinguished panel today, comprising Mr. Amol Pai, CTO, State Bank of India, Mr. Patrick Grillo, Senior Director, Solution Marketing, Fortinet, and Mr. Rajesh Moria, Regional Vice President, India and SAC at Fortinet. Welcome to all of you once again, and thanks again for joining us. I would like to start with Mr. Amol Pai with his bit of introduction. I mean, he has done tremendous work, but in the interest of time, I'll just speak a few lines. Mr. Amol Pai is the Chief Technology Officer at the State Bank of India, which is India's largest public sector bank. He is based in Mumbai. His current portfolio includes managing the IT infrastructure of the bank and the YONO application, which is SBI's automated digital banking platform. Before SBI, Amol worked with Yes Bank as Group President and had digital banking technology, as well as managing various AI-related initiatives. He started his banking career with ICICI Bank, and from education standpoint, he has a master's degree in financial management and a postgraduate diploma in software technology. Mr. Patrick Grillo, Senior Director, Solution Marketing. He's responsible for creating and evangelizing key messages about Fortinet cybersecurity solution. With over 30 years of international sales and marketing experience in network security and IP networking. Before joining Fortinet, he worked with several leading networking companies such as Wellfleet Communication, Bay Networks, Nortel Networks, among others. And Mr. Rajesh Moria, who is Regional Vice President, India and SAC at Fortinet. With over 25 years of experience, he has held various positions in business planning, sales, marketing, channel management, as well as team management with various organizations. He has driven Fortinet's aggressive growth plan in the region through market penetration and expansion of the channel network, and has also been instrumental in expanding Fortinet operations in India by adding more services to its wide range of solution offerings. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Mr. Pai, I would like to start with you to understand the kind of technology challenges right now bank.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah. No, actually, there was a drop. I missed out on the complete question. Apologies. You'll have to repeat. I'll, any case, reach my office in another 5 minutes time. I'm just closing in. So if it permits, I think you can take up the. I mean, I would request Patrick and all to get started. I'll just be at my desk and then I'll start. Is that okay? It'll take me just 5 minutes to be at my desk.
That's fine. We are all right, sir. This is Rajesh Maurya from Fortinet, so we're all right. Maybe
yes, Raj.
We can get with the Snehal is yeah. I cannot see Jatinder on the call. So is he going to be? I think he's dropped out or something.
Yeah, actually, the voice just went blank. I'm not too sure if those guys are still around.
There he's back again.
Okay.
Patrick, till the time they come back, pleasure to interact with you and Rajesh. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And let me apologize in advance in case I have any canine or feline interruptions during this call.
So one thing that the pandemic has changed is that we have got to know families and houses more better thanks to the video and the audio calls.
Sir, I'm not very sure.
Yeah.
I'm not very sure how it is working for you, but for people like us who've always been on the move, it's been really, really challenging actually. Yeah, very, very difficult. Trying to readjust to this environment for the last whatever years, basically. I think it's almost like 1.5 years. Basically.
It is 1.5 years. We've been doing this.
Yeah, which is like unbelievable, but you're right. It's taught us a lot of stuff, no question about it. Maybe it's given a lot of meaning to life more ways, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
It has. Last summer, this time last year is when we decided to adopt a puppy, and she's become quite infamous on Zoom calls and team calls and everything else as she over exuberant, wanting to get involved with what's going on.
So I can understand. It's 6 in the morning for you, right? 6 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. That's correct.
Yeah, you don't look like it's 6 o'clock in the morning. That's the beauty of being a global citizen.
Say you want to pose a question to the feline. I'm sure she'll have a bite or two to share.
And I'm sure the cat's response would be the same response she does to everything. Doesn't care. As long as she's fed and can go out when she wants to go out, that's all her life evolves around.
I don't know whether we should mention this, but in the Hindu mythology and Hindu way of thinking, it is believed that you are reincarnated again and again.
Yes.
You could be as a human or a cat or a dog. It depends. What you keep doing in your life, basically. So you never know.
Well, I've always said that if reincarnation in fact is true, then I want to come back as an animal at my house.
That's good. Maybe we can keep wishing that, We also believe that if you keep wishing something and it is really something that, you're doing it with all your heart and soul, then probably you get your, you get your wish.
Yeah.
So if you keep wishing, probably it could happen. Yeah, Jatinder, if you're there, maybe we can start. I think sir might be reaching in another 5 minutes or so. So maybe we can. Oh, he's still not there.
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry there was some network issues, so I have logged into a different system. Okay. Hi.
Now some clever editing will take care of this.
Yeah. Maybe we can start in the interest of time because I'm pretty sure Anmol sir is also really tied up. He's given us a time now, so we might as well start.
I was just checking with you the kind of in the way digital
he's just about to enter his office. So he said, if you can, just continue with Petra or whoever else you can, put, he will be maybe ready in another 3, 4, 5 minutes. And maybe, we can engage with him then, if that's all right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Rajesh. Mr. Pat, from your perspective, what are the various kind of bottlenecks businesses right now face, and especially the financial sector, since you have expertise in the managing a wide range of security initiatives and being one of the largest cybersecurity firm. If you could just throw some light on the kind of challenges businesses are facing, especially in the wake of data transformation.
Well, sure, and the data transformation is the beginning of some of the issues.
Yeah.
I was reading an article recently that the overwhelming majority of digital transformation efforts actually fail because the planning doesn't go beyond the technology. And whether we're talking cloud adoption or SD-WAN or whatever it may be, that it's not taken into account the impact beyond the technology. And that could be, how does it impact people and processes? There's also this concept called the transformation fatigue, as organizations continually try to do one thing after another. And it's also a lack of preparation. Now, in the banking world, particularly where it's you could call it a retail bank, or where you're dealing with your customers, the key issue that we're seeing is the customer experience. That with more and more competition, financial technology coming into place, that the bank is sometimes behind the curve, if you will, of how it deals with its customers. Now, we can talk about digital wallets, we can talk about mobile banking. Those things are fairly straightforward right now. But the key is, if you're a customer, and this is the perspective that you must have, is how can I make sure every touch point, every time a customer is in contact with the bank, the experience is the same, whether it's in person or remotely. And managing all of those technologies to do that is certainly one of the challenges the financial sector is facing today.
Yeah, that's absolutely very, very well said. So is Mr. Pai back?
Yes, I'm pretty much here. We can start. Yes.
Sorry, sir, for some network issues earlier. So, like Patrick has mentioned, the digital transformation has overall impacted customer experiences in a massive way. From your experience, especially in the post-pandemic scenario, how do you see the overall environment basically reshaping? And from banking and financial institutes, what has been your learning?
See, from the banking perspective, I can tell you one thing, that before the pandemic, what used to happen is that we used to coax a lot of customers to adopt our digital platform. So we would have all these special events where we would promote our digital product. We'll tell them what are the virtues of the digital product, how life can become simple for them. There would be a fair amount of coaxing done, and then there were a lot of fence sitters who, given a choice, would still want to come back to the branch to do whatever activities they wanted to do. With this pandemic, one thing that has happened is that a whole lot of fence sitters have automatically adopted the digital way of life. Okay, and the coaxing part has also reduced to an extent, because people are more than willing, and they are asking us whether such a service is available on the digital platform or not. So the digital adoption has become better. Now, with the adoption becoming better, the challenges for the bank are obviously the fact that, if I talk from an infrastructure perspective, there is legacy, there is semi-legacy, and then there is the state-of-the-art applications which we have procured. So procurements or whatever products that we have developed or produced have been over a period of time, right? They worked to a certain extent because we managed to integrate them. But it is like, as the adoption has increased and as the numbers have gone up, it means it has to now work seamlessly without any problems for anyone. So obviously, as Patrick rightly said, the entire concept of digital transformation started to set to a certain extent, where we are working on a lot of re-engineering and stuff to be done. At the same time, the feedback from a lot of customers who are comfortable dealing with our branches, they want a seamless experience come what may. Correct. So the onus has now come on the bank to see to it that while the adoption also goes up, the experience doesn't falter anywhere. They have the same smooth experience at any given point in time. And therefore, it is not just about ensuring that something is available on the digital platform. It is also about doing a transformation of the way the journey gets completed. How many friction points are there? Please, can we eliminate that friction point? Can something be digitized to the extent that it gets completed in just 3 clicks? So these are the challenges which have come to the fore with this pandemic settling in.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. The friction you are talking about, because there have been emergence of new technologies and organizations getting attuned to things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation. So this has impacted things in a massive way, especially with distributed workforce environment, and consumers are getting really hang of digital for each and every service. Patrick, want to understand the frictions we are talking about. Security is definitely, I think, it's a key agenda items across for all CIOs in the banking industry. So, how do you see the newest technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation playing a pivotal role in delivering those exceptional customer experiences?
Well, I mean, that's such a key point, and you talk about artificial intelligence in particular. Yeah. This is one of those technologies that, thanks to Hollywood, inspires a certain image. But artificial intelligence, I don't believe myself, certainly in my lifetime now, that I will walk into a branch bank and there will be a robot teller. Concept of artificial intelligence, you combine it with security, it's one of those things that improves the enablement, in that if you're to have seamless operations, and there's an expression about a duck being calm on the surface but paddling like crazy underneath. That's the way it should appear, that when you walk into the branch, everything is normal. Now, behind the scenes, there may be things going on, and artificial intelligence certainly has a role in helping those things appear calm at the surface. You may be under attack, but you still want operations to continue normally. And by a what's the word I'm looking for here? Certainly by applying artificial intelligence in correct areas in the network, and particularly when it comes to cybersecurity, you can detect an attack faster or detect it better and respond to it faster. And there's this role of cybersecurity in the financial services industry. It's to enable what you want to do, not necessarily to be an end by itself, but it should be part of everything that you are doing to ensure smooth operations.
Yeah, right. So, Rajesh, would you like to add something?
Yeah. So I was just saying that, we have something called as, enabling the blue teams, basically. What we're talking about here is, probably building up, interactor tactics, techniques, and procedures, which is researched on threat intelligence, so that, we can create a threat actor playbook, and that can be fed into the AI systems, basically. They become more and more, aware, and then, you enable the detection or attack, patterns, basically, so that your AI becomes more advanced, basically. And that's how, you keep building your AI, and that's how it helps, organizations more and more. And that's what, organizations like Fortinet keep doing, basically, So AI is becoming a big challenge, basically, to manage, as well as to be able to create, purely because of, the way the threat actors have, evolved over a period of time. But I think, by enabling the blue teams, it's much easier for, threat solution providers like us to be able to, keep the AI going, which is the need of the hour, probably in the future. Like Patrick said, maybe I don't know how this, but we are using AI already. We are using ML already. In fact, ML has been there in existence in the security space for a long period of time. It's probably been there for more than 20 years. there are some prominent words which we are using now, but we've been actually using this technology for a long period of time. I started my career selling antivirus software or promoting antivirus software way back in 1994, and I can tell you basically, in 1994 and 2000 we were already talking about ML, because antivirus researchers and malware researchers definitely had to use ML because you needed to put the code through a system basically and then come out with an output to be able to give virus signatures or malware signatures basically. So they were in use. Today we are talking about AI because the threat vectors have grown so big that I don't think it is possible for a human vector to be able to take care of all the aspects of security basically. So anyways, I think Patrick already added things. I just thought maybe, I'll talk about, enabling the blue teams basically, which is the new concept or term that, threat organizations like us use basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to see you, Mr. Amol. Yeah, good. So thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, good to see you, sir. So Amol, in such wonderful perspective from you and Patrick and Rajesh earlier as well. So going in the based on the deliberation what we have had right now. So from BI, with one of the largest, I mean, it's the in India. So going digital, what are the challenges that you actually face during the pandemic? Maybe you can highlight some of those as the everyone moved to digital kind of banking, whether it's KYC processes, whether integrating IT, and the overall enterprise architecture. It has to be transitioned in a massive way. So probably in if you can highlight some of those things, it will be really interesting.
So I don't think we had challenges in terms of the transformation, because if I have to put it in a slightly different perspective, SBI already has the largest private cloud in the banking industry. Correct? And it started almost like a decade back.
Yeah.
Started on our digital transformation journey through YONO much before even the pandemic had started. So somewhere in the year 2017 itself, we had started our transition. Our middleware strategy was already in place at that point in time, so on and so forth. So the digital adoption had already started. The cloud setup was pretty much available to the bank. So largely, we just had to accelerate our the deployments and the plans that we had got. So it was not so much about rewriting or creating a digital transformation strategy. It was more about how fast can we deliver, because that is what was needed. But then, as through the way the pandemic has impacted everyone, Mr. Manoj. So the thing is that while we had to put up the adoption plan was already there, we just had to accelerate it. But given that the pandemic was impacting everyone, what we definitely had to be worried about is how do we make infrastructure and the systems available to people so that the acceleration pace doesn't come to a slowdown or a near halt. So for the challenges for us was to ensure that the infra is available to our team members. The systems are available round the clock to our team members, and those were the activities on which we had to focus and work a lot. Some of the other challenges also which we had to go through was that given a span of 25,000 branches spread across the entire country, the northern corner of the country, we also had to ensure that the telecom lines and the connectivity are in place, because whenever a restriction is lifted or whenever the bank is allowed to be open, and banking services were available throughout the pandemic, we had to ensure that for whatever minimal amount of time the bank is operating, the services are delivered in that point in time. Whosoever comes in cannot go back disheartened. So these are the things which we focused upon a lot. The digital adoption by itself, we just had to accelerate and see to it that the deliveries.
Yeah, thanks for sharing some really great insight. Mr. Patrick, apart like Mr. Pai said, the overall architecture are basically evolving, and it has been set of new learnings for all sectors, including banking and financial services as well. So how do you see, in terms of your customers, how have you seen, especially in the banking and financial industry, what are the new trends you foresee, and probably some of the challenges that you would like to highlight, which companies across the world are facing in this sector?
Well, certainly one of the challenges, and what Mr. Pai mentioned about having a private cloud, if I understood it correctly, is now leveraging where possible, allowed by regulatory, extending into the public cloud, becoming a hybrid model. And what advantages does that bring to the bank? And I mean, we're in the process right now of preparing for a cloud security summit later this month, excuse me. And it's really focused on, and I believe the title of today's session is about the role of technology, that it can both be a boon as well as a bane. And if not done correctly, it comes back and bites the hand that feeds it. And so most of these technologies, whether it be in expanding into a hybrid cloud model, or trying to converge networking and security, it's understanding what it can do, but perhaps more importantly, what technology cannot do, or where its limits are. Because trying to do something based on a desire rather than based on a fact, that transformation effort is certainly going to fail, and it's going to have a domino effect and impact other efforts that are going on. And as I said in the beginning, the majority of these transformation efforts actually fail because of not good intentions, but certainly sometimes lack of planning, or really understanding the impact to the organization of trying to get from point A to point Z.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. The transformation efforts, I think, at times, which we have foreseen, and going by the market trends as well, sometimes the planning is not as per the actual need of the customer, and a lot of careful planning is required to ensure that whatever transformation efforts we take, that fulfill the end goal of an organization. Mr. Mora, would you like to add on this aspect?
Yeah, so I think, like Patrick said, I believe, as digitalization keeps increasing, India is moving towards digitalization, and more and more people get adding, using apps and applications becoming very, very, critical, basically. You now have people, I'm sorry, I don't know whether I should mention this, but even my guy who is actually supplying vegetables is talking about, accepting payments through a mobile app, basically. And, everything is now in the cloud. And the edge is becoming more and more, it's replacing the traditional network parameters, right, basically. So as we have, WAN, multi-cloud, data center, remote workers, IoT devices which are more and more intelligent, it's a unique risk, right? Basically. So obviously, banks need to make sure that, they are secured themselves as well as their customers are also secure, which is a very big challenge, right? I'm pretty sure, Mr. Pai might be, thinking on those lines, basically. And then, whatever new technology that you are introducing, you first need to make sure that the customers would be able to use it. And then I think before you make sure that the customer is going to be able to use it, you need to make sure that they will be able to use it securely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where we are moving towards. And as we get more and more data availability, we're talking about 5G on the anvil. We're talking about, people using, multiple devices to be able to get into, there are multiple applications available to be able to access your bank or at least make transactions, basically. And now with the new thing that RBI is talking about, trying to roll out digital currency in the country by the end of the year, I don't know how it is going to move forward. but we are talking about having digital currency in the country where RBI has probably, talked about it. I just read it recently. I think you need to create more and more infra, and more infra is going to be created. More and more, applications are going to get created, and more security requirements are definitely going to be there on the anvil to take care of. And obviously, cloud will play a very, very important part to it, because availability during this times of during the pandemic, availability of resources has been the biggest requirement, I think, for every organization. So,
right, sir.
I don't. Yeah.
No, you rightly added that. So I think what we have discussed right now, and Mr. Patrick also mentioned that the criticality of real-time actionable insights, making informed decision, and elevating consumer experience, as Mr. Pai mentioned, in this era of data transformation is very critical. So, Mr. Pai, in that reference, against that background, I would really like to understand from you as a technology leader, what are the new technologies and initiatives you foresee in next 2 to 3 years with this entire the paradigm shift which has happened recently in the last couple of years, especially in the wake of these uncertain times. So how do you see consumers interacting with banks and banks interacting with consumer? How is it going to change in the next few years?
So from a consumer standpoint, I think I'll build upon what I mentioned a couple of sometime back, that people have started. Sorry, am I audible now? Yeah. So from a consumer standpoint, I would say that what will change is that people will start experimenting with different ways of using digital products. So while traditionally money transfer would have happened through an NEFT or an RTGS, some people would have been comfortable with that all along, or putting up a standing instructions. But now they will start experimenting with using a QR code, or using a sound-based handshake for doing a money transfer. The use of plastic will keep on diminishing, because the mobile phone will start taking center stage, and digital payments will happen a lot from the mobile phones. They'll also start experimenting with different platforms to see which platform is able to give them a lot of ease. I think the era of using a particular product because it offers some kind of coupons or freebies was any case waning before the pandemic, and now it's a tough scene for anyone to get these freebies. But they will start experimenting with products where there is very less friction, and gives them the flexibility to do a lot of financial transactions at ease. That's from a consumer standpoint. From a banking standpoint, and from a technology perspective within the bank, I would say that the whole concept of elasticity has started taking up a new meaning. That earlier we used to plan for, say, 3 years workload or 5 years workload, but now the entire outlook has changed because of the way the digital adoption is increasing, and the way businesses are also thinking about newer ways of doing the same. The same person-oriented businesses. The expansion is going to be fairly rapid. So I wouldn't say adoption of the public cloud is going to be center stage, but we will look at ways and means to create that hybrid setup, or to expand our current private cloud in such a manner that I offer the elasticity to my business to keep expanding business without getting into a planning discussion with the technology team. So this is the kind of change that will come in, and with elasticity coming in, obviously there is going to be an architecture rewrite. There is going to be the entire way the operations are monitored is going to get changed, because there is the concept of RTO is going to be fairly dated as we keep going ahead. I mean, earlier what was an RTO and acceptable, it will no longer be acceptable in a digital world, because you can't have a system down at all. You have to keep running the services at all points in time. A person may want to buy a loan at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I should be able to give that option to that person. So systems not being available during an EOD, or systems not being available because of some kind of scheduled maintenance downtimes are there. All those things are going to get relooked at. So these are the changes which I see happening over the next 2-3 years.
Right, sir. you rightly said that empowering customers through new age banking and the way these technologies are reshaping business experiences and customer experiences, that's going to play a really critical role. As you also mentioned about hybrid cloud and transitioning to a different era, we have seen the data has become a gold mine today. Companies are it's basically, you talk about customer experience, you talk about creating new services. It's the data which has to be harnessed in an effective and secure way. Mr. Pai, just want to understand, how are you harnessing the data, and especially today we have seen the security threats and breaches emerging at a massive level, and consumers also, they have a lot of concerns that their data is secure, and there are a lot of governance related issues. So how are you managing that aspect, which is critical for driving great customer experiences and providing new age services?
So what I would say is that for SBI, if we want to do any kind of data modeling, I think we don't really look at to the outside world from a sample data standpoint. Given the sheer volume of the payments transactions that are handled and the kind of account numbers that we have got spread across the length and breadth of India, demographic wise or gender wise or profession wise, and also the data is pretty much available within the bank. In fact, a lot of the fintechs and the startups integrate with State Bank of India, given the reason that there is so much wealth of data available that we are, it's much easier for them to test out their models as well as test out the volumes which can be managed by their applications and the models that they create. So this is a given. Now, as far as the data security and integrity is concerned, obviously we have our policies and guidelines in place, which mandates scrubbing of certain data before it is used for any kind of consumption, be it a POC or UAT setup that is being done. We also have guidelines in place which ensure that what kind of data should be placed in an environment, whether it's a private cloud or a public cloud or a hybrid cloud. And then we also have the policies in place which mandate the deletion or purging of data once an activity is completed. So given that we have the data protection or the data management guidelines in place, the wealth of the data that is available, and obviously the fintechs that collaborate with us, and our own in-house AI and ML team, which has been doing a fabulous job as far as creating different models for lead and for lead management. We are, I think, very much positioned to handle the onslaught of all the new innovation that comes in from a product development perspective.
No, that's quite insightful, I must say. Patrick, would you like to add on this data aspect and how critical is the security in we have seen that worldwide, hacks like SolarWinds, and they have been, we have been hearing a lot of global news about data breaches on almost every day from across companies and sectors. So how do you see that in terms of the exceptional customer experience that we talk about? It has become a buzzword in today's times. The power of data and leveraging it with AI ML capabilities in a secure way. How do you see the entire trend shaping up? And maybe if you can highlight some of the likely trends you foresee banking and financial industries espousing in next few years.
Well, going to the data question and to the point you made about data is gold, which is absolutely true. If we take Amazon as an example, the fact that they sell things is almost incidental. The real thing, or where Amazon really gets its insight, is in the data. That by knowing who you are as a consumer and then looking at your preferences, your buying preferences, I mean, that's the real key for them, is getting all this information and data mining it, so over and over again they know what you're looking for, because we've all been the experience of looking for something and suddenly getting an email from Amazon, hey, have you thought about this? That's great. I mean, that depends a lot also on the regulatory environment in the particular country that you're in. Now, I happen to be based in France, and a few years ago, of course, we introduced the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. And there you have to differentiate between data privacy and data protection. They are, although related, they are two different things. And when you look at the threat landscape, and Rajesh was talking about this a little bit earlier, that when you look at the threat landscape and the creativity and the funding that the bad guys have, and in fact, you don't even need to be an intelligent hacker anymore. You just buy it as a service. Attacks, whether incidental or targeted, are faster, more frequent, more creative. And so it's very much it's a cat and mouse game, because we, as a major cybersecurity supplier in the market, we're a corporation. We're a $4 billion corporation these days. And so we have processes and things that we have to go through. The hacking community doesn't necessarily have to do that. They're much more reactive and much more creative. We have to match their creativity, of course, but they're looking at the same thing, is data. Now, not all data has the same value. The data that's permanent, who you are, your name, your age, your social security number, things like that, that data has a great deal of value. Credit card numbers, that has very limited shelf life, and we've seen a shift away from getting that sort of information to wanting to get, besides ransomware, to getting information that has a durability to it, that will not change over time. So these, and when you factor that into the banking environment, where you're talking about people's life savings or the money they're using to live on a day-to-day basis, it just makes it a mix that's a very potent one and a very attractive one, and puts the challenges on the banking community or the banking institution to want to meet its own goals, want to meet the requirements of its customers, and at the same time still needing to meet the regulatory environment wherever the bank is located. So it's a degree of complexity that is something that in some cases, and because I have feet in two different continents and two different markets, I can see the difference in how these institutions go about in being able to offer new products and services.
Yeah, Patrick, absolutely. So Patrick, I think we have few more minutes left. So before I again ask a couple of pointers to Mr. Pai, from your company perspective, we learn about the kind of things CIOs are looking at, and the various innovation banking industry expect. Mr. Pai has mentioned that. How do you see from Fortinet perspective in terms of new innovations or new technology initiatives? If you could just quickly highlight some of those for the IT managers and CIOs who are attending this session. Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, think of your own network. Think of where all the touch points with the customers, your inside, your private cloud, all of those points. And Rajesh mentioned about edges, this concept of where users' devices, network boundaries are all potential attack vectors. It's important to have the right technology in the right place across the entire network, regardless whether that's in your most remote branch or it's sitting in your on-premises data center. But having the right technology is only half of the issue, because if I have a problem and I go out and look for a solution to that problem, that process tends to repeat itself. And so every time I have a problem, I go out and look for the best solution to that specific problem. What I end up with is a complex mix of a number of different products, each one doing its job as advertised, but not working with the product to the right or to the left of them. And the management and the integration falls on the banking customer itself. The key point here is not only is it technology, but how well do these technologies integrate together? How well or how many vendors are you trying to manage? Are you trying to manage 30 or 40 different vendors, each with their own management platform? Or can you consolidate that to a more manageable 3 or 4, each of which having multiple technologies, but done so in a concept where there are integrations, and so your endpoint can collaborate with other parts of your network, or the technology in the data center understands if it works to make sure there's no lateral movement if there has been an intrusion. So that the three key, not buzzwords, but the 3 key points of any network in any sector, but particularly for banking, is detection, prevention, and response. You're never going to make a network 100% foolproof, but have the capabilities in multiple layers to make sure you can detect when there's been an intrusion and respond to it as quickly as possible. And the only way to do that is through integration.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Patrick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're observing 2 different types of worlds, and there are different security challenges, bottlenecks, and obviously the data-driven innovations are going to take a center stage as well. In terms of the newest technology, I would just like to come back a bit on that. From security standpoint, how do you see the AI and ML part, getting more integrated in organizational ecosystems, and how are companies like Fortinet empowering those initiatives?
Okay, well, as my colleague Rajesh mentioned, we've been using AI and machine learning for a number of years, and having it is not the value, or I should say just having it is not the value. It's how you integrate it into key parts of the network, whether that be in threat intelligence analysis, whether it's about threat detection in the actual network itself. And again, it's having these technologies collaborate with each other. A hot technology that's getting a lot of headlines right now is EDR, extended detection and response, or endpoint detection and response, excuse me. And that is great, but an EDR product is not going to protect your network all by itself. It has to work with the other pieces that are already in your network, being supported by this idea of machine learning and artificial intelligence, so that it's not just a newer version of what we had a few years ago, but really something completely new in the marketplace.
Thanks, Mr. Pai. Just your overall the data transformation, like we talked about recently. So how I'm talking about from the industry perspective. How do you see the next the next phase of data transformation evolving in 2020, 2022, and 2 and beyond? We have now, I think we have enough experiences in the last 2 to 3 years, which have actually demonstrated the kind of capabilities digital technologies can have and enable customer experiences and the overall transformation initiatives in a massive way. So where are we going now? I'm just to summarize what we have deliberated today.
Let me put it this way. The thing is that with the digital adoption increasing a lot, and with the penetration of low-cost phones, which are low-cost smartphones, I would not say feature phones, low-cost smartphones increasing, and with the awareness of usage of digital products also increasing, we will have a lot of customers onboarding themselves to the use of financial products in a digital way. The traditional way of money lending, the traditional way of handling money will be changing. So people will now start trusting a lot of digital products, which will also mean that they'll start trusting the bank to handle a lot more of their financial needs as compared to the earlier situation. There will be cases because of the growth in data, the models will become much more better. So people having a low or a no score or a no data availability kind of situation will also start getting benefits because the models will be able to predict the ability to repay for such people. So the explosion in data will help us fine tune the models better because of the penetration of telecom as well as the low cost phones across the country. People will get into the digital fold naturally. So it's going to be it's going to be a self-feeding circle. At one end, there will be more and more digital products.
Right.
The data will be leveraged with better products, and at the other end, people will start automatically coming into the digital fold, contributing more data for better analysis.
Right.
So I would just say that the spiral will keep going upwards. So that is what will happen.
Sure. That's absolutely, and that's where I think the learning models and seamless integration of analytics are going to play a key role as well, across the institutions. And like Patrick said, the compliance requirement and monitoring dozens of applications company wide, and securing it in an efficient manner is going to play a very crucial role. So those are some really interesting observations. And Mr. Patrick, just one last question, probably from you, and or probably Mr. Rajesh can also take up that, and after that, Mr. Pai can quickly. It's a common question for all, and especially for our IT leaders who I'm sure who will benefit from this. What are the critical mistakes that enterprises need to avoid when securing their hybrid networks? If you can throw some light on that quickly, and we can sum it up. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I would call it a mistake, but certainly points to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And that's in a hybrid network. In a hybrid network, what you want to make sure, there are three things you want to maintain. You want to have consistent protection across the entire environment. You want manageability. You want visibility. Now, how you can achieve those three things will depend on the technological and vendor choices you make. And there are times when mixing and matching is appropriate. But to maximize your capability on the first three, the key driving word, as I mentioned before, should be about integration. How well do these technologies, these different vendors work together? And if you focus on that, of maintaining that protection, visibility, and manageability, that will now give you, that will eliminate blind spots that would otherwise come up.
Great. The blind spots you refer to, I think that's something that everyone would like to avoid, and that's one of the key challenges for many CIOs across verticals, not just banking and financial institutions. Mr. Maurya, would you like to add on that?
Yeah, so I have a slightly, not slightly, I think anyways, the digital space is going to increase, there's no option basically. Customers, being a customer of SBI and being a customer myself, my money is now no longer in my passbook, it is in the form of digital data, right? So it's data basically. 1 0 here and there could become a big challenge for a lot of people, right? So I think, as networks evolved, I think, banks or any institutions, I think it's very critical that they have configuration-based, assessment and, patch management. Very, very important criteria. We might be a security company, but I think these are important controls that, needs to be put in, You need to identify and reduce your attack surface areas, and you need to probably, keep whitelisting and checking your application for vulnerabilities. You need to probably have a segmented approach to the network. Basically, you need to know how applications are evolved. Then obviously managing encryption and authentication. Making sure that users are authenticated and encryption, it's encrypted, the data is encrypted. Then obviously how to secure remote devices or users that you have, and obviously whether the bank or an institution has the appropriate dashboard which is actively monitoring the attack penetration and have a very clear response mechanism. I think is very, very critical for success of any organization who's into digital way of living. And I think we all now living in the digital age basically. And for companies like us, where we talked about ML/AI, we're talking about AI enhanced technologies that can actually see, anticipate, and then counter attack, and will probably become the need of the future, because in the future the cyber attacks are probably going to occur in microseconds, not even whatever. So I think the primary role for people like us will be to ensure that security systems have been fed enough intelligent data, that they can counter attack and actually anticipate attack, and so that they can be avoided. So that's what companies like Fortinet is working on. That we are working on with the ML and AI, trying to make sure that we have so much data that we can give customers and our clients to be able to anticipate attack and then also try and avoid attacks basically, so that whatever you protect, whether it is the money in the bank or whatever you're trying, or your digital identity or your edge or your application, and name it, whatever you're trying to protect, you're able to give quite a strong this like Patrick said, integration is a very, very important aspect, because you could have multiple solutions in your organization, and they could be probably best of breed, the best available basically. But if you're not being able to monitor what's happening from a single dashboard, or have a active live control from all these devices and be able to understand what's really happening, so that controls can be put in and immediate actions can be taken over if there is, because attacks will keep happening. We have to accept the fact that you will be attacked, because that's how it is basically. So I think it's all about trying to see how we are able to put controls basically, and how we are. In fact, I would go one step ahead and say how organizations like us who are into threat research and customers like the banking and financial institutions, or service providers who are providing service to the fraternity, to the public basically, are able to give them an assurance that there is something behind working to be able to make sure that whatever application or whatever device or whatever mode of communication they're using, it is secured basically, and they can freely use without having to worry about security basically. That's what I feel from a layman's perspective.
Sure, sir. Sure. No, that's great perspective, and I think having a clear visibility is key for any organization who is planning to have an overall holistic approach to security, including the banking and financial sector. That's very valid point. Mr. Pai, summing it up with you, would you like to share your end thoughts on probably some of the innovation you heard Patrick talking about, and we heard Rajesh talking about the different solutions as well, apart from the trends, and we hear you as well, the kind of initiatives banking industry is taking, and how by leveraging different newest technologies we are set to leapfrog in the times ahead. So do you have any wish list probably in terms of innovations which probably do not exist today, and you want to foresee from even from players like security vendors, or probably from other IT players really want to create for banking industry? Do you foresee some of the innovation? Do you have a wish list as a CIO? And then we'll wrap up this session.
So the only wish that I can have at any point this time is that the problems simply go away. Okay, so that's too much of I would say that's too much of outlandish thinking. But what I would just say is that the technologies that are required to manage the kind of growth that is required, that will happen in the next 2 to 3 years, are pretty much in place. Okay, it is just that everyone is in the learning phase, because what has happened in the last 1 year has also taught us a lot of lessons, and we are still trying to come to terms with the entire situation. So everyone is learning. So from my wish list, I will only say that whatever learnings come from every agency, like Fortinet specializes in security. There are companies which specialize in cloud. There are companies which specialize in certain products for digital lending. So I would just say that that learnings should be shared between all the partners, so that we leverage or we build upon each other's strength, so as to offer the best possible product to the customer. So this is the only wish list I can have. Otherwise, everyone is doing what is required to ensure that we have a much safer and a better digital future.
Yeah, great, Mr. Pai. And I think with this, we would end this session. To summarize, we have discussed about the new technologies, technological interventions which are needed, and security being a primary driver to create collaborative experiences, exceptional customer experiences need to be integrated well with different technologies. And from banking perspectives, definitely a collaborative approach, and how the overall ecosystem evolve, and the customer interfaces, real-time monitoring. Those are some of the key things which needed to be further improved, and have a sound dashboards, which Mr. Pai mentioned about. And you rightly said that these are the times when the learnings are happening, and going forward probably we'll see a lot more innovations, a lot more exciting development, and probably to deliver a true digital experience to customer, we are going to enter a new territory altogether. With that, I would like to thank to all our esteemed panelists today, Mr. Amol Pai, Mr. Patrick Grillo, Mr. Rajesh Moria. Thank you very much once again for joining us today and sharing your wonderful insights on the IT modernization and the cybersecurity approach, which is needed to deliver great experiences. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks, Patrick.
Oh, no problem, Rajesh. Now I'm going to have breakfast. All right. Cheers then.
Please take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Okay. Thanks, guys.